Good afternoon. I'm Kai-Yun again. My training background is in naturopathic medicine and Chinese medicine. I graduated from Bastyr University in Seattle, and currently I have a private practice in Coralville. And today we get to the fun part, which is the treatment modalities. The next lecture, which at the very end of today, I will give you a kind of a preview as to what we're going to talk about in the next lecture. Many of you might have seen this cartoon before, but I think it's quite hilarious. And
that's cool.
And people are still trying to research and find out, how does acupuncture work? You know, is it placebo? Is it trial and error? And I think this cartoon just illustrates that perfectly. We have meridians or channels that flow through the body. I have an acupuncture man here. You see all these dots on him? Those are acupoints. And we have well over 365 points in our whole entire body, if not more. And they're all connected by these things called channels. And you can think of them as highway system or freeway system. You know, you got the Interstate 80 here or whatnot. And qi is the vehicle that drives on these channels or freeway system. And this is a very delicate network or roadmap. And if qi gets stuck somewhere, let's say a traffic jam, then it creates pain or a dysfunction in how our body function. And what acupuncture do is try to open up that congestion. So let's say if somebody were to come in with a neck stiffness, you know, rather than just treating the neck itself, we look at the person as a whole. We look at how the meridians and channel flow. So there's actually one point that I've done on all my patients, and it has opened up their range of motion immediately. And that point is actually located in the arm. And you would think, why would you treat the arm for the neck? Well, you have to take into consideration that our body is connected by this flow of freeway, if you will. Yep. And in fact, the other day, I had one guy who had an injury to his neck, and he could only turn his neck about 10 degrees like this. And after that one point, he turned it like it opened up right away. And when I asked him, how long have you not been able to turn your neck? And he said, 45 years. So acupuncture got popular all over the world, somehow except America. It was only in 1972, an American journalist, James Reston, I believe he was either with Nixon or Kissinger when he went to China, and on his way back he had an emergency appendectomy, and then he was hospitalized, and then after his surgery he was complaining about stomach pain, and so he received acupuncture for the first time. And when he came back, he did a few articles in New York Times and stating about his experience and how amazing it was. Just by a turn of the needle, he could feel his sort of stomach kind of, the tension kind of started to ease. And so that's why in America a lot of the research has been focused on pain relief. Is it endorphins or is it placebo? It's still quite a debate, but there are recent research that have shown, well, if you look at the statistics, it's actually more effective than placebo. So there's a possibility there, but yet it's still difficult to study acupuncture. So why is it difficult? First of all, we can't see the meridians. You know, we take anatomy classes. You look at the cadaver, but you cannot see the meridian and channel flow. And what about qi? Some people can feel qi, but how do you describe it? Or, you know, so that way, if you can not visualize it, it's a little bit difficult to make a control study. And secondly, any one point has an effect throughout the body. So just like the example we said, treating the neck pain in the arm, or the journalist, he had a stomach ache, but then they treated the leg. And so any one point has an effect on the whole body, then you cannot isolate a segment and say, okay, let's just test on this point and see what it does, because our body is all connected in this roadmap system. I hope one day that, the science, we can find out more about this thousands years old mystery. Last time I brought up an important concept of Chinese medicine, and that is the harmony of sky and human. So no matter what methods we use, we have to come back to the basic foundation that human and sky is one harmony, and we don't look at leg pain and just focus on the leg. We look at the whole picture. So enough about acupuncture. It's only one part of Chinese medicine. There are so many other modalities that I hope we can cover it all today. First of all, it's called moxa, and moxa goes hand in hand with needle. So how big is the needle? Big! Here's a match. Here's a medical syringe. And this is the acupuncture needle. I will just show you how flexible and thin it is. You might not see it clear, but it's almost like a hair. They come all in single packet, sterile, single use, and after you use them, you throw them away. They're attached to a tube here, and I break the tube so it's loose, and then I put it on the skin and I tap really fast. And that fast action with the insertion of the needle, people usually don't feel anything. Let's move on to moxa. Moxa, well, there's a term in Chinese called zhenjiu. Zhenjiu, people talked about it all the time as if they were talking about acupuncture. But when you divide the two words separately, zhen means needle, jiu means moxa. And I don't know why they're long lost twin. they're supposed to be together. And jiu is a type of herb made from mugwort, or in Chinese we call ai ye. The parts used, it's leaf. There's lots of tiny hair on the leaf. When it's dried and all the hair is taken out, it becomes this. It's like a puffball. And they use this to, they light it up to create a heat therapy. So you can either have a direct moxa therapy or an indirect moxa therapy. So direct, they would basically place this on an acupuncture point. They would light it until you feel the warmth, and they remove it before it burns your skin. Or they could put a medium. For example, there's a method where they put salt on the belly button, and so you have an insulator almost, and then on top of it they put this moxa, and then they light it. And this is supposed to kind of warm your middle jiao, or like the central digestive system. Or they could be made into like a cigar and then burnt kind of maybe a couple inch away so you feel the heat. So, and right now technology have made the cigar into smoke or smokeless. And I bought a smokeless one. They've charcoalized the moxa, so when this is burnt, it doesn't give off the usual fume that it does, and it's much sort of safer when you are in the enclosed room. Otherwise, you get all the fume. Cupping. Yeah. Yes. Gwyneth Paltrow and Olympic athletes love cupping. This is 2004. She showed up to some sort of party, and you see these marks, people are like, oh, what's that? There are cupping methods where you just kind of run along and create a redness. And there are cupping methods where you leave the cup on for a certain amount of time. And from the color of her back, I would say they'll probably leave it on for at least well over a minute. And why do they do that? There are many different sort of principles behind it. That is mainly to open up her channel because she's an athlete, and there's a lot of stagnation when she's during the competition. And so there are different types of cupping methods. And with that, I have some cups. And so how this works is traditionally you light a fire, and you kind of go in a little bit and come out, so it creates, it empties the oxygen and it creates a suction, and this immediately goes on the body. And you could either leave it there or kind of roll it, and it does feel like a massage. And there are kind of newer design for it where it doesn't require the fire to create a suction. Is a plastic cup, and you got this little pump here, and you could pump air out. The second therapy is called gua sha. Gua in Chinese means scrape. Sha means sand. And why do they call it the sand? Is because you see all these little red dots? Those are reactions when particularly if somebody has a pain or stagnation somewhere and the scraping method goes across, then it lights up. And in a Western sense, you could think of it as bringing blood circulation to the problem area and promote healing. In the Eastern sense, it is actually opening up the qi flow. Gua sha therapy is especially well known to relieve heat stroke in the summer, and also relieve muscle and aches in the back. And then the last part of the manual therapy is called tui na. Tui means push, na means pull. And so it's a method where you use your hands, elbow a lot. And in China, and when you go to the traditional Chinese hospital, they have acupuncture ward and tui na ward, where they only do tui na, cupping, and gua sha. So tui na, there are so many different methods, and you use a lot of your hands, either using a thumb. I've seen one guy, he used the side of the palm, exactly. And this method can be used on kids. So some kids, they cannot take acupuncture. So they use these methods to kind of, it's almost like a light massage on their back, because all the points relates to either boosting the immune system or helping them improve digestion. So there are acupoints that they do tui na on. And one interesting personal experience, I was in Shanghai interning at the Shanghai Traditional Chinese Medicine Hospital. And one day we had a guest lecturer who is a master tui na-ist. And he was trained in Shaolin Temple. And that day I happened to have a bad wrist, and we were practicing tui na on each other, but my wrist was so painful that I couldn't do the motions. And it was during break, I went to him, I said, I have this bad wrist, and can I make an appointment with you? And he was like, seeing is believing, I will help you right now. And guess what, he used a thumb. He rubbed on some herbal salve, he used a thumb, and I didn't feel anything, and it was like about, I was looking at the clock, it was about a minute after the pain disappeared. I was like, wow, how do you do it? He said, it's secret. It's like 40 years worth of training and knowledge in Shaolin Temple, so there's a lot of masters out there, yeah. So it's amazing. Tui na, it looks like just the hand, but I'm sure they utilize qigong and type of qi into what they're doing. Okay, herbs. Oh, this is a huge topic. I'll start off by telling you a little story of the beginning of China. This guy you see here with the horn and eating a leaf, his name is Shen Nong. He was kind of a mystical type of person, but Chinese people believe that he was the first emperor. And the first emperor wasn't a politician. He was really, really kind to his people. He taught them how to farm. He taught them what kind of plants that they can use to help strengthen their body, or to detox from any accidental poison that they take. And so Shen Nong was believed that he carries this whip, and he has a crystal belly, so he can see what's going on, how he digests the food and how they interact with his internal organs. So whenever he sees a plant, he whips it, and somehow it's like a Vitamix juicer. It just and he takes the juice or the herb, and then he sees the reaction of what's going on, and then he writes down, is this a good tonifying herb, or is this a poison? Or if you eat this poison, what can you eat to counteract it? And so he has written a book, and it still exists today in China. What you see here is a dessert, and usually Chinese people call it medicinal food or medicinal dessert, even though it can be taken as a food, but it does have some sort of beneficial aspect to it. We never, in Chinese medicine, we don't go to bed with cold feet, because coldness will actually disturb our sleep. So if you find yourself having a hard time falling asleep, this might be something worth a try before you go to bed. And then massaging these points, because if you think about it, this is the polar opposite end of our brain. If you want to calm down your mind, massage the foot. This point, and then I can show you here, my model foot, is called it's the beginning point of kidney, the first point of kidney. And in Chinese translation, some people have translated as in bubbling spring or bubbling fountain. And this is a big point that martial arts use, or Qigong use, to ground themselves. And it's a big grounding point. And what you do to find it, it's if you divide the foot in thirds, it's the upper 1/3 here, kind of in the middle, and you'll feel like a divot. And actually ask yourself, where does it feel like you're rooted? Where does the center of your foot feels? And that often is kidney 1. Yeah. And then the second point is spleen 1. Spleen 1 is the first point of the spleen channel that will help with digestion. And it's kind of right by the toe here. And because it's so specific, and that is for acupuncture, but for a self-care at home, you can just massage this big area, and you might find it very tender. This point is not only good for stopping busy thoughts, it can also help stop bleeding in some cases. This is a remedy for dry cough, dry and heat cough specifically. And caution that this is not for cough that are related to asthma or allergy, where you have a lot of white copious phlegm. And actually, if you eat this for that type of hot, it might make it worse. So, and that again goes back to how Chinese medicine categorize everything, and then we know how to target better. The apricot seed is bitter. It's slightly warm, and it helps to resolve cough and phlegm. The Chinese dates, as we talked about, is somewhat neutral in temperature property, and it calms the mind. So, for example, if you're giving this to a kid who, been coughing up all night and they're a little bit fussy, this will kind of help them calm a little bit. And goji berry is also kind of slightly warm, neutral. It has a lot of antioxidants, and it's actually very good for improving vision. It's used a lot in improving vision formulas. And the white rock candy or rock sugar is a good flavoring, and you actually sometimes will find it added in Chinese medicine because it tonifies qi, and it somehow, and I've done this test on myself. I made a decoction without white rock sugar, and one with it, and I tasted the difference. The one without just tasted like herb, and it just kind of sits in your mouth. And with the one with white rock sugar, it blends. It's almost like it smooths out. And so from then I realized, that's why they're using it, because the general and the chief and the servant, they all help each other to blend in and help to promote the health.
What are your proportions?
Oh, enough to fill in the Asian pear. There's not, and these are optional. You don't have to add them, but the very traditional one is just adding the white rock sugar. Yeah. And so this is all I have for the tips for health, but I'm willing to share some more. Yeah, go ahead.
Why would somebody have a dry cough?
If I'm talking too much, maybe I will need one today. Yeah, and also.
Or if the air is really dry, like in the winter.
Yeah, a dry cough, or sometimes from colds. When you're getting better from a cold. Yeah. There's a couple points that you, or exercise you can do at home to relieve stress, and this is a point not for possibly pregnant women. It's on top of your shoulder here, and a lot of times I see a lot of patients with tight shoulder. In Chinese medicine, we say you carry a lot of responsibility on your shoulder, and these 2 points have a descending effect. So it kind of helps descend, either like relaxes you, or if you push on them, you'll realize that there's almost like a relaxation feeling. So these 2 acupuncture points, you could do this at home. If you're feeling a little tired, or you could press on them really hard, and it's very, very tender and achy. Another point I want to share with you is called the Souchong, the 4 spirit and intelligence point. It's on top of the head, and this morning I needled it on him. And these 4 points help to increase concentration and enhance memory. So if you find, I'll just demonstrate on my head. Okay, you look at the tip of the ear, you follow it up until you reach the center, kind of also, by the nose. About an inch out in the front, side, and back. Those are the 4 points. So follow it here to the center and go back about an inch back, an inch forward, an inch to the side. These are the points for Souchong. And
So like an energy point?
yes. It's used a lot in different therapies. When we were in school, we kind of massage each other and needle these points just right before the finals, how our energy can concentrate. And there's also other usage for example, post-stroke patients. If they're paralyzed on one side or the other, we might direct the needle in a different angle. So there's a lot of, and if you cannot remember all these points, that's okay. Just brush your hair. There's a lot of acupuncture points here on the head and the scalp. Yeah. So those are the 2 things you can do at home. Okay. In summary, so we looked at various types of methods used in Chinese medicine, but let's not forget the key principle is to look at the person as a whole and making sure there is a balance and there is harmony. So some key points from today is prevention. So a lot of the food therapy that we eat, or the Tai Chi or the Qigong that we do, those are ways of promoting healthy life. So we're not too late until we reach a disease state. And learning about how to incorporate that into your daily life. And similar, Tai Chi in a way is almost similar to Qigong, but there are different styles and movements.
Actually, Qigong, Tai Chi comes from Qigong.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of them also intertwine with martial arts, and it's all one big family. And then again, the key principle of balance and moderation is also a key. Some people say, wow, ginseng is so healthy, it tonics Fai Chi, let's take more of it. But no, you want to look at your body constitution. If somebody is already full of energy, you give them more, no, bad idea. So in medicine, what's considered medicine is the dosage. If you eat a lot of good stuff, it might become a poison. So keep that in mind, moderation. Okay. Preview for next lecture. Do you know what temperature your foods are? So as we talked about today, the pear is a cold type, watermelon is a cold type, and we will cover more, and I'll provide the handout. And so when you kind of go to the grocery store next time, you might identify, because some of these are visual and feel. Yeah. Okay, and last one. Why having a siesta nap time at noon is important for your heart. We will talk about that next time. There is a Chinese bio clock that goes by every 2 hours. So 11 to 1, 1 to 3, and each clock hour, the 2 hour segment, correlates to a meridian, correlates to a organ or intestine, whatnot. And what you do in those 2 times, there are secrets to promote your health. And so it's
Siesta?
Yes. Did I spell that right? A nap time. Yeah, so we'll talk about more. And so you'll find out when is a good time to go to bed, when is a good time to take nap, when is a good time to be doing mental activities, for example. So, well, until next time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.